If you're a male over the age of 24, this video might literally be just for you. If not, then you might want to click off now. So I was having a call today with a client, and he had an interesting situation. Good dude. He had a situation recently where he decided to move out from his folks. We did the session, or we did the 4-week training because, well, we wanted to figure out what's my next step. I know what I need to do, but for some reason I can't get myself to do it, and I'm not sure why I won't do it. I've read the books, I've done the thing. It feels like he's at, his wit's end. And it's like, what am I supposed to do now? We had done one before, but it was only for 2 weeks, and it was on a different topic. I won't go into it for confidentiality. I don't know why that was so difficult to get off reasons, but he hit me up again a while after and was like, do you do anything more extensive or just overall change? And as we were going through the session this morning, this incredible analogy came up featuring a Charmander, Charmeleon, Charizard. And this illustration was so perfect that I was like, I have to make a video on it. I have to share this, even if it's going to be with 100 people. I'll be happy with that if it's one guy. And so what is this about? What it was about is illustrating how Pokemon's actually a very, very familiar parallel to what's going on right now with a lot of guys feeling lost in life. Maybe they're stuck in a job that they're like, man, if I could really do what I wanted to do with my life, I wouldn't be doing this. And they're like, how do I make this transition? Or it's a situation where they're in a relationship where either they're happy to be there, but they know deep down there are things that, usually it's going to be very male centric. Their woman doesn't actually respect them. Or it's a case where it's like she loves them, but it's like there's this one thing he knows that is a core theme in the relationship that's really allowing it to fall apart. And having to work with ungodly, what would the number be at this point? Hundreds. There's a common pattern that I've noticed when it comes to guys not being valued by either their partner or just in general the people around them. And so it all starts with this Charmander. So let's get into it. So when we were in the call, he had made some significant changes, as I mentioned. I won't go into why, but decided to move out, has been really consistent with his workout and just been overall feeling amazing. And when people are undergoing changes, one thing I like to emphasize is that you're not changing because of me. You're not changing because of any book that you may have read, any exercise that you may have had to do, any quote unquote trauma that you had to release. You're changing because you chose to first. Everything else is secondary, right? And this is really important because what tends to happen, let's say that, you used to eat a donut every day, and somebody points out to you, or somehow you find out like, dang, I haven't, had a donut in like 2-3 weeks, right? There's a reason for that. There's always a cause. There was a cause for why you desired the donut to begin with, and maybe that trigger or that cue is no longer present, and so you're no longer eating donut, right? For whatever reason. Let's say 3 weeks later, you're like, you pick up another donut, and your habit comes back. If you're back in a place where it's like, man, I'm sure everybody's had that one habit or those couple of habits or their vices where they're like, I thought I had it this time, but then fall back into their vices. Why? Right? That's because you never understood the underlying reason why you stopped to begin with. And whatever the actual reason is, there might be a reason you think it is, and then there's the actual reason. Whatever the actual payoff, one that wasn't clear enough, like what are you really getting from it emotionally? And secondly, what's the real cost? Like that hasn't been clarified. When those two things are clarified, then you have way more control. And so in his case, it was a case where I wanted him to remember and realize you're the center of power here, not me. It's not because you're working with Jam that, you know, you're magic. Like, yes, I'm here to support you. I'm here to expose you to information that you're not going to just find in a book or in traditional therapy. That's for fast behavioral change, but it's not because of me. You had to choose to be here. And so what does this have to do with Charmander, right? So we clarified that. So we went on into this story about how elephants get trained. If you ever seen a massive elephant at a circus or anywhere, you know, oftentimes they can be chained by just having this little chain on their ankle and a little stake in the ground. It's like, how is this elephant can weigh up to 13,000 pounds and be up to 10 feet tall? How is this massive animal being held down by this little chain? And it's because of this concept called learned helplessness. And this is going to bleed perfectly into the Charmander thing. And it's just going to flow like something you've never seen before. It was amazing as it was like being co-created in the conversation. Because of this concept called learned helplessness. So how it works is when the elephant's very young, the elephant is nailed to a stake. Well, not nailed, but you know, the chained to a stake in the ground, and the elephant tries and 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 tries to no avail, right? They try and try and try. They cannot break free no matter what they do. And so over time, the elephant hits this point while it's a baby, right? For all intents and purposes, where it says, fuck it, more or less, in elephant language, of course, and says, you know, I'll never break free. And the moment the elephant gets to that point and is solidified, then the elephant is forever tamed. Why? Because they caged its mind. And so it no longer needs to cage its body when it's older, right? That's why an elephant that's easily able to just destroy the entire circus, really, is so obedient, because they caged its mind, and actions start in the mind, not the body. This is very key to understand. And again, actions start in the mind, not the body, right? And so a lot of the habits, a lot of the vices, a lot of the dark things that, you know, again, this is a male focused conversation, that men know they're doing, that they know they shouldn't be doing, that they feel the shame about after they're done, and they keep doing it, and they keep going, man, when am I going to change? And it's like, oh my God, when is there? It's like that learned helplessness eventually kicks in when they go, I'm fucked. I'll forever be alone. I'll forever be stuck in this job. Or I'll forever be living with my parents. Or I'll forever be a low ladder player. Or whatever that is. And so when you get to that point, life starts going downwards, not just around you, but emotionally. More specifically, you get depressed, you're feeling lonely, you're like no zest, right? Maybe you're scrolling through Instagram or Twitter, and it's just this negative downward cycle, right? And it feels hopeless, right? That's called learned helplessness. There came a point where you're like, man, I've tried too many times. It's just hopeless. And so we were going over, I was explaining to him as he was breaking free of his learned helplessness, because he really related with that elephant story. He's like, man, at some point I allowed my mind to be caged. And so I never really put the full effort. I never felt like I was good enough. And I said to him, what's happening right now is you're evolving. And that's where this all started. And I was like, think of yourself as a Charmander, right? A Charmander, when you come into life, if you notice in Mons, right, and I'll illustrate, let's say you come in at level 1. If you notice when you're leveling up Pokemon from level 1 to level 2 to level 3, the experience required is way less, right? If you remember back in the games, you give a Pokemon an EXP share, you may beat one wild Pokemon or play one trainer battle, and it grew like 10 levels. Ding, 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 ding. Right? Because in the beginning is when it's easiest to level up. And so if you're a Charmander, let's say, you know, a lot of young men these days, in the early parts of life, they may get a lot of praise. Oh, you're smart, which is a very big portion of my clientele. Usually guys that actually did very well in school, But because of that early quote unquote success, that old early praise, they really struggle later on to go out of their comfort zone when it comes to trying new things, because it's like they develop this thought pattern of, if I'm not good at it in the beginning, then, you know, if I'm sucking in the beginning, then it must not be for me. And so they jump from thing to thing, thinking the key is you're either good at something in the beginning or not. So they're very emotionally frail. And I can say this because I was one of them, and I had to unlearn this. That's where the growth mindset book by Carol Dweck, link in the description. I've always had that over the years as an option, free audiobook on YouTube for my guys to read, because I understand intimately how poisonous the fixed mindset can be. And when you're praised very early in life for fixed things like smart, right, a label, an identity, very difficult, and you're not going to go out of your way to find evidence of something that disproves your identity, meaning you're not going to try anything new because it's painful. Oh shoot, I thought I was smart. Oh dang, I thought, oh no, Pokemon's a shit game. Or you know, Yu-Gi-Oh is not for me. Oh, this subject is not for me. Whereas a growth mindset person has no attachment with their results and their identity, so they go, okay, I'm not good at this yet, but I can get better at it over time. And so a lot of times those who got praised very early in life struggle later on in life, because everything is about maintaining their identity versus actual improvement. And so let's say you're that Charmander and level 1, you just went from level 1 to level 10 like that. You're just a monster, right? And let's say we even use the levels as ages, right? So from birth till age 10, you were just killing it, right? Everybody knows in the game, the starters, well, most starters, I think all of them, evolve at level 16, right? However, what's happening currently in the modern day is that as a Charmander, you have to realize there's certain perks to being a Charmander, right? And so if you remember in the games, you used to be able to prevent evolution by pressing B. So you could have a level 100 Charmander, right? But what does this mean? What I was describing to him is that when I said you're evolving, you're moving out, you're boom, 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 I wanted him to see from the perspective. And so you can, like, we wanted him to understand himself from a perspective that he can already relate to. The reason that, you know, I won't say his age, but, you know, mid-20s, things weren't going the way he expected is because at a certain point, he started pressing B, right? And that could come from, you know, oftentimes this comes from some kind of coddling in terms of parenting, right? It's like, okay, I know, you know, if push comes to shove, my parents are going to take care of things. Now that's very poisonous as a male in particular, because utility is one of the core factors that makes a man valuable. And so if you're useless, and you're only useless not because you're inherently useless, but because you continually avoid anything that's challenging, except, you know, the video game you were good at in the beginning, then you're going to be the equivalent of a Charmander that never evolved. And so you're now, let's say, age 19, 20, 21, 22. Again, this is more so for, you know, 23 and older, 24 and older. So you're like, man, why am I so miserable? Why am I so lost? And I was like saying to him, you were the equivalent, without realizing it, you were the equivalent of a level 24 Charmander. And at a certain point, you're like, okay, the benefits of being a Charmander, you know, having my parents handle certain things, or not having to go out there, because how do you evolve? You put the Charmander on the battlefield. Now, this is assuming neither of these two are a factor, and we're going to get into that. But the way things gain experience points, the way Pokemon get experience, by putting them on the battlefield. They play, they fight, they lose HP, they come out on top. Sometimes they faint, but they leave with experience at the end of the battle. And then they go again, and then they go again, and then they go again. And at a certain point, you hit a level where you hear the dun 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 dun, dun. And then you go, I'm gonna hit B. Why? Because there are too many benefits. Because Charmeleon is more powerful than Charmander, but Charmeleon also gets less empathy. So in exchange for the power, it gains responsibility. There's now a burden I have to bear that comes with the power. And power is good, especially as a male. You need to be powerful. Right? Power is a word that's, been perceived as negative. It's not negative. Power is neutral. Now, what you do, if you can do negative things with power, yes. But you can prove power is positive by just seeing do you want the opposite, which is to be powerless. Right? Nobody wants to be powerless. At that point, you have no will. You're just a slave, right? So unless you think being a slave is positive, then, power is positive. You want to be as powerful as you can be, so you can choose the direction of your life. But in exchange for that power, you're going to lose some of that, in the way a toddler is treated or where a child is treated, the way that pamperedness goes away. You have to sacrifice some of that. And so in sacrificing that, some guys go, I'm not ready for that. I don't know if I'm, I don't want to become a Charmeleon yet. And so they hit B. And they've been hitting B up to sometimes as late as their 30s. That doesn't mean they live with their parents necessarily, but they've been hitting B mentally. Right? And so that was the case here where he was hitting B mentally, and that was, we did some, I won't go into that, but we did some things to uncover a lot of the reasons why that was happening. And as a result of that, he ends up starting to evolve. He's accepted his evolution into Charmeleon, right? Because, I had him write out if there were actually no restrictions, because it's very difficult for people to actually admit what they want, because they end up giving me a version of what they think they can have. So if I say to the elephant that's chained in the circus, what do you want? He may say, I want to be able to walk around the circus at any point without a chain, not realizing what he deeply wants is actually to be free in the savannah. But he's like, oh, that's really what I want, but they're gonna kill me, or they're gonna try to catch me if I try to. And so he doesn't think it's possible. And so what actually leaves his mouth is, I want to walk around the circus, but that's not the actual desire. He just doesn't think he could live in the savannah, so he doesn't even allow himself to actually want it. And so he stays stuck and chained. And so similarly, with the Charmeleon situation, what he did was allow for evolution to take place. But if you notice, what happens in the actual games? The higher you are in level, the more experience it takes to get to the other level. So to get from level 1 to level 2 is like, boom. Get from level 2 to level 3, boom. It's a little more, but fast. To get from level 15 to level 16 takes more experience than the other ones before, and then that keeps happening. So to get from level 99 to level 100, unless they change the game, should be the level that requires the most experience. So the higher in levels you go, the more experience it requires to hit the next level. And so what happens is, while guys are gaining experience, they're perceiving the fact that they have not leveled up to mean that it was a waste of time, right? If you remember in the Pokemon thing, you see the experience bar go, it might be halfway there. You can see the bar. So imagine if in real life, how life works, you can't see the bar. You actually don't even see the level, right? If all guys walked around it, you can see that's a level 1 male right there. That's a level 25 male. That's a level 100 male, right? We tend to use and assume that money or, being jacked or like the equivalent of the levels, but those things are subjective. Different people need different amounts of money, want different amounts of money, want different body types. It's not quite how it works. But, let's use common ways of thinking because it's relatable right now. And so if everybody had a level thing on their head, it would be more clear, oh dang, I'm a level 1 male. I need to step it up. We don't have that like we do in Pokemon. And so in Pokemon, you can see the level up bar. So it's easier to go, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep battling. I'm going to keep leveling up. And so this perspective shifted things for him, because he's like, oh shit, I'm always gaining experience, I'm always leveling up, and eventually he'll become the equivalent of a Charizard, right? Level 36. And the Charizard version of him is what's going to have the life that he wrote down, right? But he had to leave the Charmander phase. And here's what's another beautiful parallel. You know, just like how a level 100 Charmander, there's certain moves it never learns. So if you're looking at the world from the lens of your Charmander version, you're like, man, that's not possible. Man, I can't. But what the Charmander version doesn't understand is with evolution comes new abilities, new moves, a bunch of new stats, new potential. And so the Charizard version of you learns shit like fly. So when you're like, oh, I can only move on foot, how's that going to be possible? That's you looking at your potential from the Charmander lens, not realizing that you're going to have wings at some point. That's how dope you're going to become with the effort and time. Right. And so a lot of people right now, which is why I made this and I said, I'm going to share it. Right now are in this position where they're looking at their potential from the Charmander version. They're a 24-year-old Charmander. And they're hoping to level up through experience share, depending on their caregivers, right? Or hoping and living through somebody else's life online, or watching a million YouTube videos instead of actually doing something to change your situation. Whatever that may be. Something. Right. Nobody respects the Pokemon that never left the party. Never hit the field, but leveled up completely with just through experience share. Like inherently as a kid, you knew like you're just not quite the same as the guy who hit the field. And worse yet is the rare candy level 100er that just wants everything given to them. And that's the person who's like, man, I wish somebody would just come and fix my life. Right? I wish I could just, you know, have $100 million deposited in my account. A beautiful woman just magically wants me, even if I'm completely useless and I'm a complete coward that wants to do nothing of value, right? And I want to magically hit number 1 on the ladder. I want to do all that without ever touching the field. I want to just come out of the box, get 100 rare candies, and then that's life. Right? So experience share seekers and rare candy seekers are horrible. You can have some experience share because that's just the human experience. You don't have to learn everything firsthand. But you rare candy men are just, yeah, you want to get out of that if that's relatable to you. So this was just a really, really eye-opening thing of like, oh my goodness, like it's, you know, it was beautiful to him. Like, oh shit, I'm in that Charmeleon era right now. And in some of the rare cases, you fuck around and turn into a Zard Y, but only very few people hit that level of, you know. And what's even more beautiful is that, particularly as a man, as you evolve, because a level 36 Charizard can learn something from a level 50 Charizard. It's been a Charizard for 14 more levels than it. It's seen more, it's been through more, right? While this level 36 Charizard can guide the Charmanders and the Charmeleons. These Charmeleons can guide the Charmanders, right? And the level 100 Charizard, at that point, when the experience, your personal experience is maxed out, do you know where the next levels come from? Right. And I asked him this in the call. It comes from you helping other people level up. Right. I often get questions on like, Jam, you know, do you think you'd do tours again, or you think you'd go? For me, let's say one, I'm just busy, but for me, at this point in the game, I could win every tournament and I'd feel nothing, because that's not where I gain my fulfillment anymore. It's fun, still enjoy playing the game itself, which is why I record lives. That's really the reason I don't make any money from this, right? But I enjoy the game itself, and particularly I enjoy the brotherhood that exists here. And you know, I genuinely care about every one of my subscribers, even the trolls. I know deep down you wouldn't be subscribed to me if you didn't, you know, relate or connect to me in some capacity. So something about me triggers you, and I get that. But you're not, and I mean this in the most loving way, but you're not significant enough to create any emotional reaction out of me. You know, I heard a recent quote, but you know, and I don't mean this in a Pokemon YouTuber way, I mean this as a person offline. But you know, I don't let, what would an elephant look like making an ant make him move or react? And I mean elephant mentally. This applies to anyone, anywhere in life, right? And this is a little more a deeper level of game, more male psychology stuff, which kind of sprinkle into the Pokemon stuff. But since you guys know what I do offline now from the Q&A, I'll be a little more candid. But yeah, like, so I understand if you know, for whatever reason you feel some way, I don't give a fuck. But I do still want you to grow and evolve out of that, because there are a lot of dudes who messaged me today who initially, when they encountered me, was like, I don't like this guy, right? And they became some of the people who benefited the most from messaging me on Discord, and the stories you wouldn't even believe, right? But initially they're like, man, I don't like this guy. Nothing personal. But yeah, like, to recap, man, experience is everything. Experience is the whole game, but evolution is necessary as well. But the thing is that you only evolve twice, right? You only evolve twice. So the rest of the game is just experience and leveling up. And that comes from being on the field. So guys, get on the field, whatever your field may be. Get on the field. If you're curious about what I was describing and you want to work one-on-one, then just shoot me a message on Discord. And if I can help you with whatever the thing is, then I will. Right? It won't be free, obviously, but well, depends on what it is. If it's something short, then that was free. But if you want like something extensive like what we were describing, then that wouldn't be free. What else? There's something else that I'm forgetting. Oh yeah. Also, there's a free team building course that I just released. The link will be in the description. I know team building is a lot of things. It's something that a lot of guys enjoy and they want to get better at. So yeah, the link for that's in the description. It's free. Just go in, and I've been getting a lot of positive feedback about how simplified and how easy to understand it is and easy to apply. I'm going to be also creating a new channel soon. Maybe by the time I release this, it'll be out, but it's going to be like, I don't know what I'll call it, but it's going to be like a version of Jam Uncut, where I'll just go, I've been getting a lot of private requests of, Jam, can you just like, I wish there was content where you talk directly about stuff without coding it in Mons. And I was hesitant about that for a lot of reasons, because it's going to relate, it's going to, at least hesitant about revealing or discussing, not really revealing, discussing certain things on the Pokemon side of things. And so I'm at a point now where it's too expensive for those who I'm here to serve in this life to not make a content about certain things, because you know the stuff I see out there is ridiculous. So again, that might be up by the time check the description, it'll say. If not, then coming soon. So with that, that's where we're gonna end it today. Let me know your thoughts below. Let me know if there's even any greater parallels that you notice Share this with somebody that you think it might help. Let's help our fellow brothers, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Love you. Peace.